My name is Juniper Quinn, 31 years old. The polished oak door of Homespun Café glints like it's in on a joke, the brass handle catching the morning light as if it were a spotlight I didn't ask for. 20 minutes past opening, and the only sounds are the hum of the espresso machine and the soft clink of cups I've lined up like good luck charms. My phone vibrates against the marble countertop. Another notification. I swipe, and the screen fills with congratulations from old classmates, neighbors, even my high school math teacher who once told me precision would take me far. So proud of you. Can't wait to visit. Following your dreams. I scroll and scroll. None from Mom. None from Dad. Nothing from Sierra or Elliot. The knot that's been living under my ribs tightens. When I open the family group chat, the most recent message sits like a stone. A photo of Mom and Dad flanking Elliot at a corporate awards ceremony, the banner behind him proclaiming, "Excellence in Financial Innovation." Mom's caption, "So proud of our son tonight. I feel the drop, like missing a stare in the dark." I blink, fight the sting, and set my phone face down. The cafe, my cafe, waits like a stage before the curtain rises. Gleaming espresso machines I polished at dawn, display cases with the pastries I tested until my palate was numb, hand-painted signs, cushioned window seats, a logo I sketched on a napkin during a graveyard shift, and then sanded into the glass myself. Everything I dreamed about when I was a kid drawing rainbow bakeries while Elliot compared summer investment portfolios with Dad. I used to imagine my parents at the best table, telling strangers, "Our daughter made all this." The aroma of cardamom and butter lifts. I brush flour dust from the reclaimed wood counter and run my fingers along the exposed brick I stripped and sealed. 3 months of learning plumbing from YouTube, painting until midnight, installing fixtures before dawn. 4 years of double shifts, diner mornings, hotel lounge nights, saving dollar by dollar until the number in my account read 92,000. Elliot went to Wharton on our parents' dime, his rent covered, his future a project plan. When I once mentioned culinary school, Mom smiled. "It's cute that you're interested in cooking, honey. But it's not exactly practical, is it? Not like Elliot's business degree." My phone buzzes. "Dad, we need to talk about your cafe situation." My fingers hover. The old me would apologize, ask what I'd done wrong, beg for guidance. Instead, I type, "The cafe is doing fine, thanks." 3 dots appear. Sierra's response lands like a pat on the head, a single heart emoji. Passive-aggressive diplomacy in pink. A knock on the window. I look up and blink. A line, actual customers, has formed outside. A woman with a stroller presses her glove to the glass. A teenage boy points at the cinnamon rolls and mouths, "Dude." Beyond them, a man in a navy jacket stands apart, holding a clipboard and counting heads without making eye contact. He tips his chin to someone I can't see, notes something, and steps further down the sidewalk. Odd. I smooth my apron, paste on a smile that quickly becomes real, and unlock the door. "Welcome to Homespun," I say, swinging it wide. The bell above the frame sings, and people flood in with that holy murmur of first impressions. "These croissants look unreal," a woman says, phone lifted for a photo. "Did you make all this?" "Every bite," I say, pouring coffees as the display case empties in small, joyful avalanches. Compliments wash over me. The ache doesn't vanish, but it's quieter under the chorus of strangers choosing me. "Everything okay, boss?" Rachel asks during a lull, a barista with sharp eyeliner and the kind of honesty people pay therapists to hear. The latte art on her last pour looks like a fern leaning toward light. She follows my glance to the phone. "Family stuff?" "Always," I say, "but also, look at this place." She grins. I'm looking. I step into the back to grab more lavender shortbread tins and notice an invoice on the corkboard I don't remember pinning. The distributor's logo sits in the corner. A footnote at the bottom catches my eye. Regional consolidation under review for Q3. Terms may change with minimal notice. I frown, crease already forming in my forehead. Q3 is months away, I tell myself. Minimal notice is still notice. I slide the invoice under the magnet and return to the floor, but the phrase burrows like a splinter. 3 weeks later, on a Sunday, the scent of Mom's potpourri hits me as I step into the house I grew up in. The entry mirror gives me back a version of myself I recognize and don't. The baker with flower freckles, the daughter bracing for a talk disguised as dinner. "There she is," Elliot calls from Dad's leather armchair, ankle crossed, watch face flashing like a signal. "How's life in the cupcake world?" "Homespun is doing well," I say, and it feels true in my mouth. "Lines out the door this week." "That's nice, honey," Mom says, appearing with a tea towel. "Your father wants to chat in his study before dinner." Of course he does. The study, where serious things happen. Elliot's Wharton acceptance, Sierra's promotion to director, Dad's warnings delivered with the kindness of a man, sure kindness is efficient. The mahogany desk gleams. A folded Forbes lies dead center. He slides it toward me without looking up. 80% of cafes fail within 3 years, I read aloud. "Richard," Mom murmurs from the doorway. "Let her eat first." "This can't wait," Dad says. "Juniper, your mother and I have been discussing your situation." "My situation," I repeat. "You mean my business." "The venture," he says, like correcting a market term. He takes off his glasses and sets them on the article, an underline without ink. "You've invested your entire savings without consulting anyone who understands." "I took classes," I say. "I did market research." "Community college," Elliot says from the door with a bland smile. "Adorable." Mom tries for gentle, the kind that bruises. "You're creative, honey. That's wonderful. But you've never been practical." Sierra leans a shoulder into the frame, nails painted a tasteful neutral. "Projections you made yourself aren't exactly objective." Elliot steps forward, glass in hand like a gavel. "I turn around failing businesses for a living. I'll oversee your financials. Pro bono. Add me to your accounts so I can monitor cash flow and make the necessary adjustments." The room seems to tilt. Years of double shifts, of crying in the shower because my feet were screaming, handed to him like a puzzle he gets to solve. "You want access to my business account." "It's for your own good," Mom says, reaching. I step back. Dad's voice irons flat. "Before you lose everything." When, he means, not if. The certainty snaps something into alignment inside me, a quiet click like a lock turning. I see the choreography in a single wide shot, Dad's grave concern, Mom's softened down brow, Sierra's covert smirk, Elliot's outstretched help. The scene I have rehearsed my whole life, with one role assigned to me, the grateful recipient of control disguised as rescue. "I don't need to argue," I hear myself say, and the steadiness surprises us all. "Thank you for your concern. I'll think about it." They blink as if I've spoken a language they don't trade in. Mom exhales, relief flickering. "That's all we ask. Dinner's getting cold." At the table, Elliot narrates a consulting triumph. I nod at the right moments, but my hands feel my phone in my pocket like a heartbeat. A message from Rachel. "Need an emergency call to escape?" I smile and type, "Not yet." Another from Tessa, the florist 2 doors down. "Your croissants with my bouquets were a hit. Mother's Day collab?" Below that, the barbershop owner, coffee plus cut promo, and an email ping. Portland Chronicle food writer requests interview. New downtown cafe sensation. The mahogany table's gloss reflects our family like a shallow lake. In that mirror image, I don't look smaller. I look seated at eye level with my life. Dad calls the next morning, then Wednesday, then Friday. 12 tallies in my notebook under concerned calls. "Just making sure you're prepared when the honeymoon period ends," he says, and I say, "Thanks for checking," and hang up before the gravity shifts. In the cafe that afternoon, the bell jingles, and Mom slips in with a designer purse and an expression that says, "Surprise visit, surprise judgment." "I was in the neighborhood," she says, which is an elegant lie. She runs a finger along a spotless counter. "Have you considered more help? You look tired." I'm about to answer when a text from Elliot pops up. Interesting article on why independents can't compete with chains. Pivot before it's too late. Sierra follows with a message about a downtown franchise opportunity. Brochure offer included. I slide the phone away. I turn to the corkboard for a pen and my eyes land on the distributor invoice again. Regional consolidation under review. Terms may change with minimal notice. Outside the front window, the man with the clipboard passes by, counting again, eyes skating the room like a scanner. He makes another mark. He meets someone's gaze beyond the doorframe and nods once. A silver SUV idles at the curb, then pulls away. I don't chase validation. I refill the pastry case and adjust a hand-painted sign that wobbles when the door opens. When Vanessa Walker from the Portland Chronicle will later ask why I didn't take my family's help, I won't talk about pride. I'll say something truer, that I needed to hear my own voice without someone else's microphone. For now, I lift a tray from the oven and watch steam curl like a promise. The bell rings. The line thickens. The day moves forward, relentless and generous. Somewhere, a consolidation is forming like a storm over water. Somewhere, a stranger is counting my customers for someone who thinks I won't notice. I do. I simply choose to keep serving until the sky tells me whether it's weather or warning. Ready for the rush? Rachel says, tying her apron. Always, I say, and mean it. Outside, the clipboard man turns the corner. Inside, the tables fill. Between them, a future balances on a thin edge, and I feel, for the first time, that I'm the one holding the blade. Morning finds me at the bench with a bowl the size of a small moon, and a rhythm that makes sense of everything. Fold, turn, rest, repeat, until dough becomes something that remembers how to rise. The line will start forming around 7:30, commuters first, then the stroller brigade, then the laptop nomads who pretend they don't have favorite tables. I pull a tray of cinnamon rolls from the oven and let the glaze ribbon down their spirals like light through old glass. The bell jingles before we unlock because regulars ignore clocks when hunger and habit are in cahoots. Save me too, the barbershop owner Marco says before I can greet him. He sets a stack of flyers on the counter. Cross promo, haircut receipt gets them $1 off coffee. You post us, we post you. Done, I say, and Rachel stamps the flyers with our logo like an officiant blessing a union. By 9, the florist, Tessa, breezes in with an armful of peonies that smell like the color blush. Mother's Day collab, she says, tapping her phone to show a mock-up. My croissants tucked beside her bouquet, lilac ribbon around both like a promise. We call it breakfast in bloom. Put it by the register, I tell her. We'll make it a weekend thing. The day becomes a montage I wish I could cut together with soft piano and a whispering narrator. The bookstore texts to ask if we can deliver scones for their poetry night. The vintage boutique DMs a request to display tarts during a trunk show. A yoga studio asks for oat milk latte vouchers for their sunrise class. The photos I invested in do exactly what I hoped. Make the food look like the reward for choosing the right life. Our follower count triples, then quadruples. Comments read like small prayers. Found my spot. Tastes like home. Finally a place that knows cardamom. I post a reel of the morning rush, the pour, the slice, the smile, and watch strangers stitch it into their own routines. Dad calls mid-afternoon. I let it go to voicemail and check later. Honeymoon periods are deceptive. Make sure your fixed costs don't outpace your variable aspirations. The man can't help giving advice that sounds like it was printed on the back of a bond certificate. I tally another concerned call and return to tempering chocolate. By early evening, the door opens, and Vanessa Walker walks in like she already belongs here. Dark notebook, soft-soled shoes, a gaze that takes in corners. Juniper? She offers a hand and a smile that says she understands places before she writes about them. Vanessa, Portland Chronicle, may I? We sit by the window where the light is kind to people and pastries. She asks questions that don't waste breath. Why this neighborhood? What's your signature and why? How do you structure a day so you can make bread and payroll? I talk about the first batch of sourdough that collapsed like a fainting goat, the second batch that sang as it rose, the way Marco's trim and coffee special turned Monday into our best weekday. I talk about Tessa's flowers waking up the display case, about Rachel catching a mispulled espresso by ear. Vanessa scribbles, then photographs the room without asking people to perform. When she leaves, she says a thing reporters should say more often. I came because your name kept coming up. After close, I sit across from Dr. Winters in the hour of the day when my body is still and my mind keeps working anyway. Her office is a lamplit mercy, plants that look alive on purpose, a rug that muffles self-consciousness, a carved wooden bird on the shelf that seems to lean the way good listeners do. How's the family constellation? She asks, casually precise. Still orbiting the son of Elliot, I say. Dad called 3 times this week. Mom swung by to tell me I looked tired. Sierra offered to fetch a franchise brochure. Elliot sent an article with an emergency pivot in the subject line. And you, she prompts, did what? I told Dad the numbers are trending up. I didn't send spreadsheets. I didn't draft a novel in defense of my life. I just said thanks and hung up. She smiles at the bird, which feels like a shared joke. And inside? Inside, I didn't audition, I say, surprised at the clean relief of the words. I didn't try to be cast in a better role. I just worked. She nods. Systems want to keep you in the part you've always played. You can change the lines without announcing a new play. When I leave her office, the city has that cool breath feeling it gets after it remembers it's near water. I cut through a block I don't usually take and pass a loading dock where a distributor's truck idles. Two men talk beside it, one in a branded jacket, the other in a navy coat with a clipboard, the same clipboard from my window. The man's eyes flick to me once, and his mouth does not move, but I can feel the count pocketed like a chip. The Chronicle piece goes live on a Sunday afternoon. The headline, "The Cozy Café That Outsold a Chain," is both flattering and dangerous, like praise that invites challengers. Vanessa's writing does the thing good writing does. You can hear the room. She counts numbers without making them boring. She quotes a regular who says our lavender shortbread tastes like a memory she can't place and now doesn't have to. There's a graph, steady climb where most lines dip. Rachel tacks the article to our bulletin board with white pins like stars. The line for the next 2 days reaches the door and then decides it doesn't care. It stays anyway. Dad texts a link with no comment, then follows with a comment. Flash in the pan isn't a strategy. Elliot adds, popularity profit, margins? Sierra, lucky timing with that block. Hope it lasts. Mom, sweetie, temporary highs can be dangerous. Rest. I type a single message. Monthly revenue up 17%. Wholesale talks underway. I don't send the spreadsheets. I place another tray in the oven. The wholesale inquiry arrives via email with questions that straighten my back. How many units per SKU can you guarantee at a 7-day cadence? Do you have second source redundancy for butter, flour, and beans? Are you comfortable with a 90-day payment cycle? It's written in the polite, predatory voice of someone who thinks small operators are flattered into disadvantage. I answer the ones that make sense and leave the rest for when I can afford a lawyer who makes me bigger than I am. At the bottom, a name I recognize from the distributor's invoice CCCD, someone whose job title includes the word consolidation. Rachel leans against the doorframe, reading over my shoulder. Feels like a hand in your pocket. Feels like a test of how much I want to scale, I say. Or how much you'll give up to be seen, she says. And I want to write that on the chalkboard where we usually list soups. Midweek, Elliot arrives in a suit that looks like it believes in itself. He waits in line, which is new for him, then cuts to the counter anyway, which is not. Busy morning? He smiles the smile that sells people plans they don't need. The usual, I say, handing a cappuccino to a student in a wool beanie. Thought I'd take a look at your books while you handle this. He pats his leather briefcase like a domestic animal. Give you professional insight. I'm handling my finances, I say, not unkindly, because I have learned that refusing a cage doesn't require a scream. Come on, June, he says, the nickname people started using when they wanted me smaller. Hobby businesses need oversight before they become cautionary tales. This isn't a hobby, I say, eyes steady, voice low enough for only him and the espresso machine to hear. And tales are for people who need to be heroes. I'm fine being a baker. He waits, expecting permission to push past the boundary he pretends is a suggestion. When it doesn't arrive, he gives me a sharp nod that translates to later. We'll try this again and leaves with a polite wave to our customers, who don't wave back because they know who the main character is here. Before close, a woman in a pressed blazer appears with a notebook and an economy of movement I admire. Vanessa Walker, she says to Rachel, who grins like she's been expecting this sequel. Follow-up photos. The editor wants a shot of the morning line. While Vanessa frames the door, I box a lavender shortbread for a woman whose eyes shine. It's the best thing I've eaten in months, she says, which would be enough on any day. She adds, please don't change. I can't, I say. That's the secret. After the rush, I stand at the back door with a trash bag knotted like a wish. Down the block, the silver SUV idles again, the clipboard man inside. He looks up from a stack of papers, and, for the briefest moment, our eyes meet. Not a threat, not yet. More like a ledger, wondering if it's about to acquire a line item. He lifts a coffee to his mouth, my cup, my sleeve, my logo, and sips. Then he drives away. That night, my phone lights the kitchen like a low moon. A text from an unknown number. We represent several venues seeking a primary pastry supplier. Are you open to exclusive agreements? The offer hangs there, tempting and barbed. Exclusive means pipeline and leverage. It also means handcuffs disguised as bracelets. I type, let's talk terms, then delete it. I type, send details, and leave it. I will read them in daylight. In the morning, the bell will ring, and people will ask for what they loved yesterday, and for something new to love today. Before that, I'll meet flour, water, and salt where they already know me. I'll answer Dad's next call with a sentence, not a speech. I'll send Vanessa a thank you and a fresh scone wrapped like a warm thought. I'll write 2 menus, one for the storefront, one for a future wholesale table that pays on time. I'll keep the invoice pinned where I can see it. Not to worry, but to watch. By late afternoon, the email from the Chronicle's editor lands, feature trending citywide. With it, a DM from a journalist at Food Portland asking to attend our community tasting day. I say yes and feel the floor tilt, not like falling, like a boat catching wind. Outside, a cloud bank loiters at the edge of the sky with the look of weather gathering its argument. Inside, we prep sample trays and stack compostable forks in cups like bouquets. Rachel caps the trash, ties her apron, and says, "Tomorrow's going to be a story." "Let's tell it our way," I say, and flip the sign to closed with a finger that doesn't shake. Across the street, a Range Rover crawls by. Slow enough to read, fast enough to deny it meant to. The driver lifts a phone to film our chalkboard where the tasting menu waits in looping script. I recognize the profile in the glass like a reflection from a life I've been leaving. Sierra. The text arrives seconds later, sweet as a sedative. Family dinner. Sunday. We should talk about the cafe's future. I stare at the screen until the words make the shape of a meeting I didn't schedule and a trap I've seen from the catbird seat. Then I put the phone face down and slide another tray into the oven, because there are things that can only be answered when the room smells like butter and the timer is your ally. The tasting day will be crowded. The reporters will come. So, I think, will my family. And somewhere between paper plates and the mayor's handshake, someone is going to claim a piece of what I built. I already know how to answer. Saturday morning rises bright and deceptive. Sunlight so clean, it feels like forgiveness. The community tasting day is set. Flyers taped to every nearby window. The chalkboard menu rewritten 3 times until the letters look effortless. Inside, trays of new pastries gleam like polished stones. Lemon blueberry tarts, spiced apple galettes, caramel puff twists, a honeyed fig scone I made on instinct. Outside, tables line the sidewalk with paper samplers and coffee cups in tidy rows. By 8, the line stretches down the block. Rachel manages crowd flow with the patience of a saint and the command of a traffic cop. 2 samples per person. Rotate the trays, people, she calls, laughing. Marco from the barber shop hands out coupons. Tessa's flowers decorate the tables. I breathe it in, the scent of sugar, roasted beans, peonies, and Portland's early summer air. A photographer from Food Portland snaps pictures of customers leaning into the sunlight, laughing, lifting cups mid-conversation. I'm rolling dough for the next batch when the bell jingles, and my body knows before my mind does. Dad's voice cuts through the chatter. Well, this is quite something. The air shifts. I turn slowly, wiping my hands on my apron. There they are. Dad in his golf shirt, casual but commanding. Mom beside him, designer handbag like armor. Sierra with her camera-ready smile and the perfect little family trailing behind her. And Elliot, no suit today, just business casual, which somehow feels more strategic. Didn't expect to see you, I say evenly. Mom offers a quick kiss to the air near my cheek. We wanted to be supportive, sweetheart. Elliot surveys the room, eyes calculating square footage. You've had quite the turnout. People seem happy, I say. He nods, the expression that precedes a but. Though from a logistics standpoint, Rachel intercepts with professional cheer. Welcome. Feel free to sample our seasonal pastries. The lavender honey tart is a customer favorite. Dad picks up a croissant, tearing it in half. The lamination could be more consistent. His voice carries just enough for nearby customers to hear. She's always rushed her folding process. Sierra tuts, arranging sample trays by color. These would look better grouped by hue, not flavor. It's all about aesthetic balance, Junie. Mom glances around and murmurs to Rachel, The tables are rather close together, don't you think? Creates a cramped energy. Rachel's polite smile doesn't falter. We like cozy. The comments land like raindrops that don't know they're part of a storm. I see customers pretending not to listen, then listening harder. Elliot, of course, finds his mark. A food Portland journalist chatting near the counter. By the time I make it over, he's already mid-pitch. As I was telling my sister during the business model phase, he says smoothly, artisanal quality at scale requires efficiency systems. I helped implement a few of those early on. The reporter scribbles, polite but skeptical. I stand beside him, calm but taut as piano wire. Actually, I say, homespun systems came from long nights and a lot of trial and error. Every recipe, every spreadsheet, every partnership, you're looking at them. The journalist raises a brow, glancing between us. Good to know. Dad joins, folding his arms. The initial investment was substantial, he says, voice dipping into authority. Sometimes creative ventures need family backing to get started. Silence punches the air out of my lungs for half a heartbeat. That's interesting, the reporter says, because my research showed the cafe was self-funded. I nod. Entirely. Savings, loans, sweat equity. For a moment, all four of them freeze, their practiced smiles slipping. The journalist closes her notebook. That'll play well with readers. As she turns away, I catch sight of movement through the front window. The clipboard man again. This time he isn't counting customers. He's shaking hands with someone in a tailored navy jacket, the regional distributor's logo stitched on the sleeve. My stomach drops. I remember the invoice line, regional consolidation under review. Rachel's voice breaks through the noise. Juniper, someone wants to meet you. I turn. The mayor of all people has arrived, accompanied by an aide and a city photographer. She smiles warmly. Ms. Quinn, congratulations. Your cafe has become a cornerstone of this block. Small businesses like yours give Portland its pulse. Thank you, I manage. Would you mind a quick photo? Dad steps forward automatically, placing a hand on my shoulder like ownership is hereditary. The flash pops. I feel it sear something in me. When the mayor moves on, I step aside, breathe through my teeth, and tell Rachel quietly, keep things running. I need 5 minutes. I walk out the back door into the alley. The hum of the city fills the gap. Distant horns, the hiss of espresso machines from neighboring shops, a busker strumming 2 streets over. My phone buzzes, a text from the distributor, contact I'd emailed earlier. Juniper, we need to discuss supply commitments. Call me Monday. Another message follows almost immediately, unsigned. Family dinner tomorrow. We need to talk about the cafe's future. The words blur together until I can see the shape of a trap disguised as help. When I step back inside, the cafe is still alive with laughter and movement. The air smells like citrus and coffee and ambition. I look at my staff, Rachel at the register, Marco charming a customer, Tessa refilling flower vases, and something in me steadies. The journalist returns, notebook tucked under her arm. Off the record, she says quietly, your family seems invested. I laugh softly. That's one word for it. Don't let them write your story for you, she says, and disappears into the crowd. By closing time, the pastries are gone. The tables are sticky with fingerprints and good memories. The chalkboard sign reads, sold out, in bold chalk strokes. My hands ache, my shoulders throb, but my chest feels open, like something old finally unclenched. Dad approaches as we stack chairs. We're proud of you, he says, tone measured. But success can be fleeting. You'll want experienced guidance moving forward. Meaning you, I say quietly. Meaning family, he corrects. Mom touches my arm. Let's talk about it tomorrow, over dinner. Everyone will be there. Elliot adds, we can discuss proper scaling, potential franchise opportunities. I've drawn up a few models already. And if I say no? I ask. Then you'll learn the hard way, Dad says kindly, as though offering mercy. Sierra slips her arm through his. It'll be good for her to listen this time. When they leave, Rachel locks the door behind them. You okay? I'm fine, I say. Tomorrow's another performance. She studies me, reading beneath the words. Just remember, you own the stage. Later that night, I sit at my desk in the small apartment above the cafe, scrolling through messages from customers, photos, praise, a few misspellings of my name that still make me smile. Then I open the distributor's email again, the one about supply commitments, and notice something new at the bottom. A CC line that includes an address I recognize. Elliot. Quinn at Baxter Consulting. Comms. The air goes cold. He's consulting for the distributor. Of course he is. The clipboard man wasn't random. The consolidation note wasn't a coincidence. They've been circling this for months. Outside, the city exhales, neon flickering across wet pavement. I close my laptop and let the sound of rain against the windows settle the panic into purpose. If they want to make me dependent, they'll have to catch me first. Tomorrow, I'll go to dinner. I'll smile. I'll listen. And then I'll tell them no. But I'll need a plan. And by Monday morning, I'll have one. Because family can play chess all they want. I've finally learned the rules. The dining room is staged the way my childhood remembers it. Candles and crystal sleeves. Knives aligned like silver landmarks. Mom's pot roast, occupying the center like a benevolent monarch. The air smells like rosemary and script. Sierra has arranged flowers with the precision of a mood board. Elliot has set his leather portfolio to the right of Dad's water glass, a placement that suggests authority without saying it. I sit where I've always sat, left of Mom, across from Elliot, then realize I don't occupy that old chair anymore. I bring myself to the table as the person who signs paychecks. Juniper, Dad says, using the name like a cork in a bottle. Before we eat, a word about the future. Of course, before we eat. Hunger sharpens compliance. Go ahead, I say. He folds his hands. Your cafe has demonstrated early viability. Congratulations. His mouth forms the winning smile he takes on golf courses. Given that, now is the time to professionalize your growth. I'd like to invest. Mom's hand covers mine with choreographed warmth. Isn't that wonderful, sweetheart? A real family venture. We could do this together. Elliot opens the portfolio. Tabs labeled in tasteful neutrals blink up at me. Phase 1. Stabilization. Phase 2. Replication. Phase 3. Scale. The first page, franchise expansion with minimal capital exposure by leveraging current brand equity. The second, family governance model, financial oversight, executive veto rights, cash flow controls. Sierra scrolls her phone without looking up. And I can overhaul your social media, cohesive brand voice, clean grid, less crafty. So the terms, Dad continues, are standard. For a significant capital infusion and operational expertise, we'd assume financial oversight. Elliot would be added to your business accounts. Large expenditures would require majority approval. He smiles like this is magnanimous. We'll protect you from risk. I let the phrases wash over me until the one that matters surfaces like a shark fin. Assume financial oversight. The currency of comfort is always control. Mom squeezes my fingers. You've been so independent lately. It feels like you're pulling away. This would bring us closer. Elliot flips to a chart already pre-filled with assumptions. At your current trajectory, your honeymoon curve will flatten in Q4. A chain 3 blocks down will undercut you on price. Also, your distributor is undergoing consolidation, I say, even and cool. I read the invoice. He does not blink. All the more reason to bring in partners who can guarantee supply continuity. Partners, meaning him. Continuity, meaning dependence. My phone vibrates under the table. A new email subject flashes up from the distributor contact, confirming Monday call, supply minimums. Beneath it, the CC line I saw last night stares back. Elliot. Quinn at Baxter Consulting. Calm. I look directly at him. Are you consulting for my distributor? A micro pause. The silence tilts the room like a boat catching a rogue wave. Then he recovers. Baxter has multiple clients in regional supply. I consult broadly. Were you involved in the consolidation review? My voice is flat fog, soft, impossible to ignore. Were you counting my customers? Don't be paranoid, Dad says gently, the way people say hysterical without saying it. Elliot's job is to anticipate market pressures. He's trying to help. Sierra's mouth does that sympathetic curve that always felt like a hook. You've built something sweet, Junie. It just needs structure. What it needs, I say, is clean lines between support and control. Dad leans back, steepling his fingers. Be reasonable. This is how families build dynasties. You bring the product. We bring the protection. Mom's eyes shine. We worry, darling. That's love. Love that hands you a life jacket after opening a valve. The pot roast cools. The candles lean into their own wax. The child in me wants to scream. The adult in me takes a breath and finds a different note. I appreciate the offer, I say, and I mean it. To say otherwise would be cheap and untrue. But I'm declining. Mom's hand flinches back. Dad's smile becomes architecture. Elliot's pen clicks a single, precise tick. Juniper, Dad says, each syllable sanded. If you refuse experienced oversight in a tightening market, you will lose what you've built. Unless, Elliot says smoothly, you can show supply redundancy and capital for expansion within 30 days. Sierra's eyes flash. That's oddly specific. It is, I say, and slide a folder from my bag. I place it on the table the way you place a card you've been saving for the river. Inside, a signed agreement with Blackbird Roasters, 3-time regional barista champions, committing to supply with flexible scaling and a pricing schedule that rewards growth without punishing early volume. Beneath it, a letter from the City Business Association on letterhead, offering introductions to a cooperative flour mill and a local dairy collective piloting small operator contracts, bridges I built at tasting day when I shook hands with people who smelled like yeast and understood weather. And then the last page, a lease, signed for a second location near the art museum, with a 30-day operational proof clause that requires verified supply continuity, workplace safety inspection, and a first-month revenue buffer placed into escrow. You'll notice, I say calmly, that the escrow requirement is already funded. Elliot's eyes flick to the number. He recalibrates in real time. With what capital? Revenue, catering, 3 hotels, 2 corporate breakfast accounts, workshops that fill before we post the link. Dad clears his throat, a soft thunderhead. You move fast. I had to, I say. Your email CC told me the clock was already running. Mom's voice is small. We didn't want you to be hurt. I know, I say, and the truth of that breaks something brittle in me. But wanting to help is not the same as helping. The room pauses, the way a kitchen holds its breath when a soufflé is deciding who it is. Dad adjusts his napkin precisely to the right, as if rearranging fabric could fix what has slid out of formation. You've made commitments without consulting us. It's my business, I say, not a group project. Elliot studies the Blackbird contract. Premium rates, he says, impressed, despite himself. And you negotiated a seasonal blend exclusive. Blackbird believes in what I'm building, I say. So do the hotels. So does the mayor. So does the block. Sierra's defensiveness makes a brief, human sound. We believe in you, too. I meet her eyes. Then stop behaving like my belief belongs to you. The cater calm of the dining room wavers. From the kitchen, the oven timer beeps. Mom always bakes a crumble to follow pot roast, a ritual the family's faith has never questioned. She rises mechanically, disappears, returns with dessert none of us will taste. Dad weighs a last argument in his palm, then sets it down. Very well, he says, tone shifting to the formal neutrality he uses when closing doors. If you refuse investment, do not come asking for rescue when conditions turn. I won't, I say, and I feel that promise seat itself inside me like a steadying hand. Elliot is quiet longer than I expect. When he finally speaks, it's almost soft. You know, consolidation doesn't care about pluck. I know leverage hates independence, I say, but communities like mine, and I've built one. Sierra pushes her chair back with careful grace. If you're determined to do this alone, at least let me audit your visuals. You bury the best parts. Maybe later, I say, when you can see them. Mom places the crumble on the table anyway. I made your favorite, she says to the air, apple with extra cinnamon. It is absurd, and it is love, and it is not enough to change the math. We eat the quietest dessert I can remember. At the door, Dad offers his cheek and a parting benediction that is not a blessing. Success without humility invites ruin. I smile not unkindly. So does power without consent. Elliot lingers as the others collect coats. Blackbird is a smart partner, he says. But your lease clause, 30 days for operational proof, that's tight. I've done tighter, I say. Bread doesn't rise because of mercy. He smiles, rueful. You always did like a clock. And you always did like a lever, I say. Juniper, he adds, almost brotherly. If Baxter reaches out again, loop me off. Optics. They're not optics, I say. They're shadows. I prefer light. He nods, a concession that doesn't quite reach repentance, and goes. Alone in the foyer, I breathe until my shoulders drop. My phone buzzes. Blackbird confirming Monday's delivery window. The Business Association CCing an intro to the cooperative mill. The museum district landlord acknowledging receipt of my escrow confirmation with an emoji he probably thinks is cool. Out on the porch, the night smells like wet pavement and cut grass and beginnings. I text Rachel. Prep. Blackbird beans arrive Monday. Confirm safety inspection for Tuesday. Draft training for second location. Espresso calibration plus front of house flow. I text Marco. Soft open barber cafe collab at museum site next Saturday. Haircut plus cortado tokens. I DM Tessa. Gallery night florals. Opening week. Messages ping back like a chorus. Yes, yes, yes. Back at my apartment, I spread the documents over my desk until they look less like weapons and more like instruments. I pin the Blackbird contract to the corkboard beside the distributor invoice, with its bland threat line still visible. Regional consolidation under review. Terms may change with minimal notice. I underline it in pencil, then write beside it, we choose our storms. On the stove, I warm leftover soup and eat standing up because that's how tonight goes. My phone lights again. Vanessa Walker. Heard rumors of a second location. Coffee? Off the record or on? I type, on. But you'll need to bring a camera. She sends back a smiley and a single word. Monday. Before sleep, I open my journal and write, I declined the dynasty and chose the kitchen. Under it, day 1 of 30. I draw a tiny square and shade it in, a private advent toward proof. I do not pretend this will be simple. The clause is real, the window narrow, the family undeterred. Somewhere, the clipboard man is still counting. Somewhere, a chain manager prints my headline and pins it as a target. But in the pocket of my apron are keys to a room that smells like butter and tomorrow. And under my name on the lease are letters that took me 31 years to understand matter most. Sole proprietor. I turn off the lamp. The city keeps breathing. An oven timer in another apartment beeps, and a neighbor curses, and a bus sighs at a stop, and the world keeps doing the small things that add up to living. In the dark, I see the outline of the second storefront, the gallery lights catching in our window, Blackbird's beans feeding a line that decides we're worth the wait. In the reflection, my family stands outside, guests, not gatekeepers, their shapes soft with distance and possible grace. We can try for better, we cannot rerun the pilot. Tomorrow I'll step into the 30 days and make them mine. And if anyone comes for the knife in my hand, they'll learn it's for bread, not bargaining. The cafe smells like memory and motion, roasted beans, lemon zest, the faint sweetness of powdered sugar hovering in the air. A year. 1 full year since I stood alone on opening day, waiting for a door that didn't open, wondering if silence meant failure or faith. Now the place hums like a heartbeat. The espresso machine sings its soft percussion while Rachel orchestrates the morning crew. Emma boxes pastries for delivery. Marco tapes up flyers for next week's charity bake-off. The chalkboard wall blooms with messages from customers who've turned into something else. Community. Monthly totals, Rachel says, sliding a paper across the counter with a grin that nearly outshines the numbers. 48,000, I read, up 12% from last quarter. We're expanding, June, again. The words still feel impossible, like they belong to some other woman, someone who didn't used to cry over an unanswered family group chat. I glance at the framed Chronicle article pinned above the register, the cozy cafe that outsold a chain. Next to it, a more recent one from Food Portland, Willow and Whisk's second location, how a local baker built a movement. Yes, we rebranded Willow and Whisk, a name that fit the rhythm of what we'd become. Mayor's office confirmed attendance for the anniversary party, Rachel adds, stacking champagne flutes. Press 2. You ready for the spotlight? I laugh. I've been in it my whole life. I just didn't know I could move the light. By noon, the museum district location bustles with deliveries. The catering van idles out front. The florist's crew sets up an arch of peonies and eucalyptus over the entrance. The second storefront feels like a living reflection of the first. Same warmth, more windows, new art from local painters. Flowers are up, Tessa calls, waving from the sidewalk, and the photographer's early. Inside, trays of pastries wait beneath linen covers. Every detail has been chosen, every light tested. I glance at the clock, 4:47 p.m. My family is due at 6. A year ago, that sentence would have carried dread. Today, it's just data. The first guests arrive. Customers, partners, neighboring business owners, even a few of the baristas who started with me and went on to open shops of their own. They drift in, toasting, laughing, tasting. I make my rounds, shaking hands, thanking people, tucking gratitude into small, steady smiles. At 6:05, the door opens again, and I feel the familiar shift in air pressure before I turn. My family has arrived. Dad in his gray blazer, Mom holding a gift bag with gold tissue paper, Elliot in another perfectly tailored suit, Sierra flanked by her husband and kids. Juniper, Dad says, voice warm but careful. This is impressive. Thank you, I say, and mean it. Mom scans the room, admiration fighting its way past old reflexes. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Truly. We brought you something. She hands me the bag, a first edition of The Art of French Pastry, wrapped in gold ribbon. Thought it belonged here. It does. I set it gently on the shelf behind me. Thank you. Elliot whistles low. The turnout's incredible. You've built quite the operation. 2 locations, I say. 3, if you count the online orders. Sierra steps closer, her voice softer than I expect. Your photography's stunning. Did you hire an agency? No, I took the photos myself. She nods slowly, eyes flicking toward the framed press clippings. I could learn a thing or two from your brand cohesion. There's no sarcasm in her tone, just honesty, delicate as spun sugar. Rachel taps a glass. A toast, she announces, to Juniper Quinn, the woman who never stopped baking, even when the world told her it wasn't practical. Applause ripples through the room. Glasses lift. Laughter bubbles. I glance at my parents, who are clapping too, albeit with the restrained pride of people still adjusting to new terrain. When the room quiets, I clear my throat. Thank you all. A year ago, I opened my doors wondering if anyone would walk in. I learned that sometimes strangers believe in you before family does. And that's okay, because love isn't proven by applause. It's proven by showing up, and all of you did. So thank you for helping me turn a dream into a place where people belong. The applause this time is louder, freer. Cameras flash. In one of the photos, my parents are smiling. Not the curated kind, but real. Later, I step into the back office to breathe. The space smells faintly of vanilla and printer ink. On the wall hangs a photo from opening day. Me standing behind the counter, eyes hopeful, apron dusted in flour, room empty. Below it, a new one. Today's crowd, vibrant and full. A knock on the door. Elliot pokes his head in. Got a minute? Sure. He steps inside, closing the door behind him. I wanted to say... He hesitates, uncharacteristically. You were right to go your own way. I didn't see it then. I see it now. I study him for a beat. That means more than you think. He smiles crookedly. I'm thinking of leaving Baxter Consulting, starting my own firm, maybe focusing on small business strategy instead of corporate clients. Would you look over my proposal? The irony tastes sweet, but not bitter. Of course, I say. Just promise you'll build it because you love it, not because you're trying to prove something. He nods. Deal. After he leaves, Sierra appears in the doorway, phone in hand. I, put some of your photos in my next campaign deck. Credited you, obviously. I hope that's okay. It's more than okay, I say, smiling. When the night winds down, Dad finds me near the espresso bar. Juniper, he says, glass of champagne in hand. I owe you an apology. My heart stumbles. For what? For assuming guidance was the same as support. He looks around, eyes softer than I've ever seen. You built something remarkable, and you did it the hard way. I'm proud. It isn't a grand gesture, but it's real. That's enough. Mom joins, looping her arm through his. Your cafe's in Food and Flavor magazine this month, she says. I subscribed. She laughs quietly. Can you believe it? I can. By 9, the crowd thins. Guests leave with gift boxes of cookies tied in satin ribbon. The lights dim to a soft amber glow. I linger by the window, watching reflections ripple in the glass. The people I love, the people I've forgiven, the people I'm still learning how to trust. Rachel joins me, holding 2 flutes of champagne. To the first year, she says. To every year after, I reply. The last guests trickle out. My parents wave from the sidewalk before slipping into their car. Elliot and Sierra stand together under the streetlight, their laughter drifting back through the open door, lighter than I remember. When the noise finally fades, I lock the door, turn off the lights, and stand in the quiet that used to scare me. On the wall, 2 framed items catch the moonlight. My first dollar earned and the Chronicle headline that started everything. Beneath them, a small plaque Rachel had made reads, Success isn't proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. I trace the words with my finger. Then I add a note in my journal for tomorrow's workshop with local community college bakers. Build something because you love it, not because you need permission. Before I leave, I check the ovens one last time, the habit I can't shake. Everything is off, everything safe, everything waiting for morning. As I step outside, the night air wraps around me like an old friend. Across the street, the lights from the art museum spill onto the pavement, warm, golden, endless. This isn't the end of the story, I realize. It's just the part where I stop explaining and start living. I lock the door, slip the keys into my pocket, and walk away under a sky that smells faintly of rain and flower. The world hums with quiet promise. And somewhere inside me, so do I.